Welcome to War Bios, the podcast where we delve into the most pivotal conflicts in history, and I'm your host, General Biography. Today, we're going to explore one of the most iconic battles in American history, the Battle of the Alamo. This 13-day siege in 1836 was a defining moment in the Texas Revolution, pitting a small band of rebels against the formidable Mexican army. The bravery and sacrifice of the defenders have become legendary. But to truly understand the significance of this battle, we must first examine its origins. Located in a fertile valley near the San Antonio River, the mission was strategically situated to facilitate trade and conversion of the local Native American population, specifically the Payaya and Pastilla tribes. Over time, the mission evolved into a small settlement, attracting settlers from various parts of Mexico and the United States, including Tejanos, Mexicans, and American pioneers. As the Mexican War of Independence raged on from 1810 to 1821, the Texas region was a hotbed of activity, with many Texans, or Tejanos, fighting alongside Miguel Hidalgo y Castilla and later Agustín de Iturbide for independence from Spain. The war finally came to an end with the signing of the Treaty of Cordoba on August 24, 1821, which established Mexico as an independent nation. However, this new nation faced numerous challenges, including internal power struggles, economic difficulties, and conflicts with indigenous tribes. One key figure who played a significant role in shaping the early history of Texas was Stephen F. Austin, an American entrepreneur who had been granted a contract by the Mexican government to bring 300 families to Texas. Austin's colony, known as the Old 300, thrived, and he soon found himself at odds with the Mexican authorities over issues such as land ownership, taxation, and the role of the Mexican government in Texas. The Mexican government, under the leadership of General Manuel de Mir y Terán, began to restrict American immigration to Texas, fearing that the Americans would eventually seek independence. As the 1830s progressed, tensions between the Texans and the Mexican government continued to escalate. In 1832, a group of Texans, led by William Barrett Travis, wrote the Turtle Bay Resolutions, which called for greater autonomy for Texas within the Mexican Republic. However, these demands were rejected by the Mexican government, leading to further unrest and eventually the outbreak of violence in 1835. On October 2, 1835, a group of Texan rebels who had been gathering at Gonzales, a small town east of San Antonio, refused to surrender a cannon that had been given to them by the Mexican government for defense against Native American raids. This event marked the beginning of the Texas Revolution, as the Texans, now determined to fight for their independence, began to organize and prepare for battle. The Alamo, once a peaceful outpost, was about to become the focal point of a brutal and decisive battle. The fate of Texas and the future of the United States hung in the balance as these brave men fought for their freedom and their lives. As the Texas Revolution gained momentum, a small band of rebels, primarily American settlers, gathered at the Alamo, a former Spanish mission in San Antonio, to prepare for battle. The defenders, who numbered around 180 to 250 men, were a diverse group, including famous figures such as Davy Crockett, a former congressman from Tennessee, and Jim Bowie, a legendary frontiersman. They were led by William Barrett Travis, a young lawyer who had become a key figure in the Texas Revolution. The Mexican army, under the command of General Santa Anna, was a formidable force, with over 1,500 soldiers, including experienced cavalry and infantry units. Santa Anna, who had recently consolidated power in Mexico, was determined to crush the rebellion and maintain control over Texas. As he marched toward San Antonio, the defenders of the Alamo knew they faced a daunting task. Despite being vastly outnumbered, the defenders of the Alamo were well entrenched within the mission's walls, which provided a strong defensive position. They had also managed to gather a significant amount of ammunition and supplies, including food, water, and medical equipment. The defenders were primarily armed with rifles, muskets, and cannons, which they used to deadly effect against the Mexican army. On February 23, 1836, the Mexican army arrived at the Alamo, and a 13-day siege began. The defenders, who had been preparing for this moment, held their ground against repeated attacks by the Mexican army. They used their cannons to devastating effect, inflicting heavy casualties on the attackers. However, The Mexican army's sheer numbers and firepower eventually began to take its toll on the defenders. As the siege wore on, the defenders of the Alamo became increasingly isolated, with no hope of relief from outside forces. The Mexican army had surrounded the mission, cutting off all supply lines and escape routes. Despite this desperate situation, the defenders continued to fight bravely, inspired by their leaders and their determination to defend their freedom. On March 6, 1836, the final battle took place as the Mexican army launched a massive assault on the Alamo. The defenders, who had been weakened by days of fighting and lack of sleep, put up a valiant resistance, but they were vastly outnumbered. Nearly all of the defenders, including Travis, Bowie, and Crockett, were killed in the battle, which lasted only a few hours. The loss at the Alamo was a devastating blow to the Texas Revolution, but it also galvanized support for the rebels. The famous cry, "Remember the Alamo," became a rallying cry for the Texans, who eventually defeated the Mexican army at the Battle of San Jacinto on April 21, 1836, winning their independence. We also delved deeper into the events surrounding the Battle of the Alamo, focusing on the key players, strategies, and decisions that shaped this iconic event. The loss at the Alamo was a devastating blow to the rebels, with nearly all of the defenders killed in the battle. However, it also galvanized support for the Texans, who were determined to avenge their fallen comrades and secure their independence. The famous cry, "Remember the Alamo," became a rallying cry for the Texans, who used it to mobilize support and recruit new soldiers to their cause. The battle also had a profound impact on the leadership of the Texas Revolution, with Sam Houston emerging as a key figure in the fight for independence. Houston, who had been appointed as the commander-in-chief of the Texan army, played a crucial role in rallying the rebels and planning their next move. In the months following the Battle of the Alamo, the Texans regrouped and reorganized their forces, preparing for a final showdown with the Mexican army. On April 21, 1836, the Texans launched a surprise attack on the Mexican army at the Battle of San Jacinto, near present-day Houston. The battle was fierce but brief, with the Texans emerging victorious after just 18 minutes of fighting. The Battle of San Jacinto marked a decisive turning point in the Texas Revolution, with the Mexicans suffering heavy casualties and their commander, General Santa Anna, being taken prisoner. The Texans, on the other hand, had secured a major victory, which paved the way for their independence. In the aftermath of the battle, the Texans negotiated a treaty with the Mexicans, which recognized Texas as an independent republic. The Treaty of Velasco, signed on May 13, 1836, marked the official end of the Texas Revolution and the beginning of a new era in Texan history. The legacy of the Battle of the Alamo continued to shape the course of American history, with the famous battle cry, "Remember the Alamo," becoming an enduring symbol of bravery and sacrifice. The battle also had a profound impact on the development of Texas, which eventually became part of the United States in 1845. The site of the battle has been preserved as a historic landmark, with thousands of visitors flocking to San Antonio each year to pay their respects to the defenders of the Alamo. The bravery and sacrifice of the defenders, who gave their lives for their freedom, serve as a powerful reminder of the importance of standing up for what we believe in and fighting for our rights. In conclusion, the aftermath of the Battle of the Alamo marked a significant turning point in the Texas Revolution, with the Texans securing their independence and paving the way for the eventual annexation of Texas by the United States. The legacy of the battle continues to shape American history, serving as a powerful symbol of bravery and sacrifice that inspires us to this day. That's all for today's War Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I'm General Biography reminding you to keep marching toward victory.